A massive terror attack was thwarted last Thursday when the police stopped a suspicious-looking Palestinian man in Jaffa. Turns out he was in Israel illegally and was carrying a submachine gun and 2 pipe bombs. The political parties in Israel's parliament are making some last-minute deals and running agreements before the party submission deadline comes this Thursday. The chairman and CEO of the Jewish agency, which helps Jews make Aliyah from all over the world, is returning to Ethiopia 40 years after he helped in a very special mission inside of Ethiopia. We're going to talk all about that. And 11 new Jewish families immigrated from France to a community in Samaria called Bruchin. I'm Josiah, and this is the Israel Guys. Welcome to the Israel Guys, where we believe that in a world of Jew hatred and anti-Israel propaganda, you should have a direct connection to the land and people of Israel. Welcome back to the show, guys. First off, make sure to subscribe, hit that like button. Also, turn on all notifications so you never miss an episode of the Israel Guys. We're coming to you 3 times a week. We would really appreciate it if you would subscribe. That really helps us out. Also, check out our Temple Mount location series. We are now on the second video. We released the second video of our 6-part series on where was the temple located in Jerusalem. There's some crazy theories going around the world that the Temple Mount may have not been on the actual site that is the traditional site for the Temple Mount. So make sure and go check that out. This week's video, we just released it yesterday, is called "Where Did the Temple Get Its Water From?" And basically, we're trying to figure out solving the problem of where does water come from. There's only one natural spring inside of Jerusalem. We're going to answer all those questions. Plus, we go live on all the locations inside of Jerusalem. Don't want to miss it, so it's another reason to subscribe so you don't miss any of these videos we're putting out, not just regular shows, but also going out into the cities of Israel and finding out the truth of what's actually happening and what's really going on here in the land of Israel. Thank God, 2 terror attacks were actually thwarted last week, foiled from taking place. And one of them, last Thursday, a Palestinian was caught by the special patrol unit, Yassam, of the Israeli police. It's a special unit inside the police. This Palestinian was carrying 2 pipe bombs and a submachine gun. He was arrested at the clock tower in Jaffa on Thursday afternoon. Turns out this guy was in Israel illegally, so he's a Palestinian who didn't have a permit to work inside of Israel. Somehow he snuck across the border or whatnot, came into Israel with these weapons, and he was transferred to the police station for questioning. The officers saw this guy after they aroused their suspicions. They asked him for his permit. He said he didn't have a permit, and they immediately basically took his stuff and realized that this was a potential terror attack. And after being questioned, he told the police during his interrogation that his ambition was to be a martyr, or what the Arabs would call a shaheed, basically to go out and kill Jews and get killed in the process, and that his desire was to carry out this attack because his motive was that he hated Jews. And his quote was, "Because I hate Jews." That's why he was going out to carry at this terror attack. And thank God the police were able to stop it, because this could have been a horrific attack. He had a submachine gun with multiple magazines. He also had 2 pipe bombs, which he was headed to a very populated area of Tel Aviv, or so he said. He wanted to go to a place where there were a lot of people in order to take out and kill as many civilians as possible. So thank God for the Israeli police, and it's another instance of God protecting his people, looking out for them here. This guy actually I think he was arrested in May earlier this year when he was caught carrying a knife near the Temple Mount. He also served jail time for that, so this guy kind of already had a record of violence and potential terror threat there. Just actually yesterday morning, Sunday morning, there was another stabbing attack that was thwarted at the Al-Jib checkpoint near Givat Ze'ev. An Arab woman apparently ran towards the officers at the checkpoint with a knife raised, which doesn't seem to be, I guess she was also trying to be a martyr probably, because that doesn't seem to be the best method to take out soldiers, just to run at them from far away with a knife upheld. The terrorists, or the soldiers standing there, yelled out for her to stop. She didn't stop, so they fired 2 warning shots in the air, and then she did stop, dropped the knife, and they arrested her there. She was actually a 24-year-old lady from the village of Al-Jib, and admitted, like the other guy, that she came to the checkpoint with the intention of harming Israelis. So this could have potentially, again, taken a life or even caused a lot of severe injury to these soldiers who were at the checkpoint. And thank God it was stopped and she was not allowed to carry out the purpose for which she came to the checkpoint. And we can, again, continue to pray for Israel and thank God that he is protecting his people. And these two attacks were stopped just in the last week. So thank God for that. Israel's parliament is kind of scrambling. They're doing their last-minute preparations, their last-minute submissions, because basically Thursday is the deadline in Israel's parliament. The elections are on November 1st, but Thursday is the deadline for each of the political parties to submit their party list and who's on their list, what seat numbers and ranking inside of the list, and basically which of the small parties are going to decide to form an alliance and run together on a joint ticket for the upcoming election. Basically that they would run together, meaning they would combine their votes from the different people that actually vote for their specific party. They vote for the joint list, that they go together. A lot of the small parties do that. And actually the head of the Jewish Home Party, Yossi Brudny, he called on Ayelet Shaked to join forces with his party and run at its head. So Ayelet Shaked is Yamina, same party as Naftali Bennett, who is now stepping out of politics for now. So she was number two to the previous prime minister of Israel. And she joined a election pact with another party just, I think, about a month or month and a half ago. Turns out that actually just fell through this last week as well. There were some disagreements within the party. So the Jewish Home Party was claiming, this is the other party, they were claiming that Ayelet Shaked, they wanted basically her not, because she's religious, and or a lot of the people in her party are religious, and this other party she had joined forces with, they were going to call it the Zionist Spirit Party, were not religious. They were basically saying that she needs to run on a religious ticket, and this is why they're offering her now to join forces, Yamina and Jewish Home. Interestingly enough, Naftali Bennett and Ayelet Shaked started Jewish Home back in the day, and then they eventually left and started Yamina, the new right party, and then it turned into Yamina later as well. Sorry, there's a lot of details with political parties, but also I think another one of the reported reasons that she broke up with this other party, because Ayelet Shaked is committed, it seems, to not going to another election after this. People are afraid that there's going to be another stalemate in the government where a major party isn't going to be able to form a government. And so it seemed like she was sticking to her guns, saying that they were going to join a Netanyahu-led government no matter what, if that would form a government, not to stick out on all these different issues like a lot of the parties have in the past and say we're not going to run with Netanyahu because of these disagreements, but we need, basically she's making the stance that we need to join Netanyahu so we can form a right-wing government. And run, even if it's a narrow majority, we need to form a right-wing government. And so it seems like there was some disagreements with the other more secular party that she had joined with. So that fell apart. And now the Jewish Home, her old party, is now offering to join forces with her at the head, which could be very interesting and potentially help out both the parties in the upcoming election in November. So till Thursday, we might have some more changes in all the parties, but after that, we should be able to get a pretty clear, comprehensive list of all the parties running in Israel's Knesset, and we'll be able to see what's going to happen leading up to November 1st, and hopefully we'll be able to get a right-wing, more conservative government back in Israel's parliament. A very interesting story I came across this week was the chairman of the Jewish Agency, his name is Doron Almog, is returning to Ethiopia. And what's very interesting about this is he is the chairman of the Jewish Agency, but he's going to Ethiopia to visit the Jewish community there and to help them. So the Jewish Agency basically helps Jews make aliyah from all over the world, come back, helps them return to Israel, and a lot of it is helping them get settled in Israel after they arrive here as well. But 40 years ago, this man, who is now the chairman and the CEO of the Jewish Agency, 40 years ago, he was the commander of the Special Forces Shaldag unit, who went into Ethiopia and brought back thousands, I can't remember the exact number, but thousands and thousands of Jews, Ethiopian Jews, back to Israel. It was a military mission known as Operation Moses, I believe, and it brought back, so this guy was a major general in the Shaldag unit who went to Ethiopia, to bring these Jews back to Israel, these olim. They say immigrants to Israel are called olim because the word olim means those who go up, and those aliyahs, to go up to Israel, basically to return. So these olim are coming back to Israel. They came back 40 years ago in the early 80s from Ethiopia, and now he's going back to interact with the Jewish community there, and also to accompany some of the new olim from Ethiopia in the Operation Sur Israel. Now, the Operation Sur Israel is an operation which began in December of 2020 and ended in March 2021, where about 2,000 olim, 2,000 new immigrants arrived from Ethiopia to Israel. And then there was a second phase, which was launched in June 2021 and is still going now, when the government decided to bring an additional 3,000 new immigrants from Ethiopia to Israel. So far, for the numbers I got, there's been about 1,250 immigrants from Ethiopia with the second wave of this Operation Sur Israel coming to Israel. And so General Almog, Doron Almog, who is a soldier helping to extract these guys from Ethiopia way back in the day, back in the 80s, he's now going back as the head of the Jewish agency to interact with the community there, help them, encourage them, and also to accompany some of the new immigrants back to Israel. I thought that was a pretty amazing thing. It looks like there's going to be about 200 new immigrants coming to Israel next week. Right before he left for his trip to Ethiopia, General Almog said, quote, "It is a great privilege for me to return to Ethiopia, this time as the chairman of the Jewish agency, and to help the members of the community realize their dreams of immigrating to Israel and reuniting with their relatives in Israel after many years of waiting," end quote. According to the Jerusalem Post, during his visit, Almog's visit, he will visit the historic sites where Ethiopian Jews walked in the 1980 pilgrimage. They had to walk a long way to come to Israel, had to walk a ways to get to some airplanes to be able to fly to Israel. He will also review the preparation activities for bringing more Aliyah Olim immigrants back to Israel, and he's going to connect with the representatives of the Jewish agency in Ethiopia as well, and he's going to meet the new immigrants that are coming to Israel. The president of the Jewish agency, Eric Fingerhut, said that the true heroes of the Ethiopian Aliyah are the Olim themselves, who have waited for so long for this moment, yet never lost hatikva, the hope. Hatikva is the hope that they would one day reach the land of Israel. And that's from the president of the Jewish agency. It's an amazing thing when Jewish people return to the land of Israel, because, it was prophesied about in the Bible that the Jewish people would be scattered, and that's what happened. They just scattered for 2,000 years all over the world. And now, after so many years in exile, they're coming from the four corners of the earth. They're returning back to the land of Israel. There's no other nation in the world that has done that has been scattered and pushed out into all these nations in the world, and then return to their country and return to their land of origin, their people of origin, and their heritage is still the exact same inside of the land of Israel. It's an amazing thing. On the topic of new immigrants coming to Israel, actually, an entire Samaria community, there's a community called Bruchin, which is here. It's probably about 30 minutes here from Har Bracha in Samaria, where we are recording the show live here. They came to the airport to welcome some new immigrants from France. Now, 11 French families actually immigrated from France to Samaria, and I thought this is interesting too. There are immigrants that are moving straight into these communities, these beautiful Jewish communities inside of Judea and Samaria, straight from wherever they come from. So these 11 families made Aliyah. They're immigrating to Israel together, and what they didn't expect was for hundreds of the residents of Bruchin, the community they were moving to as their new home inside of Israel, hundreds of residents were waiting for them at the airport to welcome them to Israel. You can really see the camaraderie and the family of Israel, even though they probably have never met any of these, maybe a couple of them, but not met all of these immigrants coming to Israel. They were still there to welcome them, saying, welcome home to their Jewish brothers and sisters coming back to the land of Israel. And this was not in the middle of the day. This was at 5 o'clock in the morning. I think the flight arrived at like 3. They had to do all the paperwork. Then they came out at like 5 o'clock, and there was all these people waiting there with cakes, singing songs, ready to welcome them and make their experience pleasant, welcoming them to the land of Israel, back home after 2,000 years of exile. The arriving families, they went to the community, and they were met by the head of the Shomron Regional Council, the Samaria Regional Council, Yossi Dagan, who helped them set up a mezuzah, which is the little thing they put on the doorpost with the scriptures from Deuteronomy. inside of it. He helped them set that up. That's the first thing you do when you're building a house, and help them welcome them into the new community, or the community, these new families into there. Yossi Dagan said, this is a flagship project for us. The number of families wishing to immigrate to Samaria is constantly increasing, and we are prepared to receive them. We are preparing the ground for the reception of hundreds of thousands of immigrants from France and making Samaria a home for French immigrants. And that was Yossi Dagan, the head of the Samaria Regional Council here inside of the Shomron. Also, one of the new immigrants who came with his wife and his young daughter said, after they were settled here in the community, they said, quote, they are doing everything to make us feel at home. Talking about the residents, beautiful residents of Bruchin, this community in Samaria, who welcomed these families with open arms because they are coming back to the land of Israel, just as God promised and God said was going to happen over 2,000 years ago. Guys, this is an amazing thing. Jewish people coming back to the land of Israel. I hope that's an encouragement for you. And in the meantime, let us know what you think in the comments below. We love to connect with you there. We'd love to hear what you think, your thoughts about what's going on in Israel. Continue to pray for Israel. It's one of the mandates to pray for the peace of Jerusalem in Psalms. So continue to pray for Israel as well. Make sure to tune out the fake news and tune into what is actually happening in the land of Israel. We'll be back every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday with your direct connection to the land and people of Israel.